Hey there everybody and welcome back. For those of you that are having some trouble working with checkboxes and setting up any kind of logic with these in Appgyver, stay tuned. I'm covering the basics of how to work with these in today's video. Now, to give you a quick demo of the app that we're going to be building, it's very simple, but the idea is going to basically extend over if you make more complex apps as well. So the idea here is we have 4 answers. If we choose answer, let's just say A, then if we choose B, A is automatically deselected. So regardless of where you are in this transition, you're only allowed to select one checkbox at a time. And then here, if we click See User Answer, you'll see it's answer 3. If we change it to 4, that process will repeat. So you'll see that we are actually storing this answer as a variable down here. That way, if a user wanted to select, let's just say answer B, and then they clicked a button to submit, it would send this value. So let's go ahead and make this app together. Now, before we get started with this, don't forget to show your support for the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and check out the channel for more videos. All right, so jumping straight into this application, we are using Appgyver here. If you have questions, I have tons of tutorials both here and on my website at codelessfix.com, where you can find tons of different app templates, both free and paid options. Now, for this particular we'll just say this app, it's a single page. What we have set up, first we're going to build the variables together. I have it set up as a page variable, but you'll need to choose the type that works best for you. In this case, I have 4 answers, 4 checkboxes, and a user selected. So if it helps you to understand things, you can copy exactly what I'm doing. So I have 4 variables. They're all text. So to add them, you can just click Add Variable and choose the type here. Then you would name it and then repeat the process. So I will remove this one, but again, you'll need variables for answer 1, 2, 3, 4, variables for checkbox 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for the checkbox options, these need to be set as a type true false. The reasoning for this is that's the type of logic that needs to be used to get the checkboxes to work. So you'll have checkbox 1 through 4, and then one final variable for user selected, and this is just going to be text. Now, for your answer variables, in your initial value, this is going to be the answer option or value that's going to be selected. And then in the checkbox options, I'm setting my initial value over here to false for all of them. User selected will not have an initial value. So once you've done this, I'll very quickly walk through how I have this built. So if you drag over 4 rows, and then we'll scroll down a bit. So basically what I have set up is on the left-hand side, we have our checkbox, and then on the right-hand side, we have our text. Now in this case, you have 2 options for the checkbox field. I personally prefer the plain checkbox. I'm not a huge fan of the text box field. I don't really like the label personally, but it's entirely up to you. You can go through and figure out what you would need specifically. But again, you can check through and use the checkbox primitive, which is just the checkbox by itself. Again, entirely up to you. So we'll just drop over 4 checkboxes, and then we will drop over the remaining missing text. So basically, when you're scrolling through on this components side, you're going to be looking for just your standard text, and we'll drop that over. Now, here we are basically caught up as far as what you actually need to have set up for yours to kind of get this working. So I'm going to go ahead and delete everything that I just added because I don't really need all of this. And then we'll walk through that pretty basic setup. So you probably already have a general idea as to what we're doing. So first, we have our title, text that just says, let's do this. And then we have the rows that we just set up together. So first things first, we're going to assign the values to the checkboxes. So for checkbox 1, you'll click here to select the value, data and variables, page variable, and you'll choose checkbox 1. And then you're going to repeat that process. So this one will be checkbox 2, this one will be checkbox 3, and checkbox 4. Now for the answer options, we are going to repeat the process and we are going to set the page variable answer 1 and then you'll repeat all the way down. So answer 2, answer 3, answer 4. Now in this case, I added a button here, and then down here I have the text. It's set up as a formula, so you can type this out yourself if you want to see exactly what I'm seeing. But this is static text, so it's in double quotes, and then we're adding, which means we're basically concatenating. So with text, it's saying put this text with this text. So here it says user answered, and then it's going to show the page variable for user selected. Now, if you prefer to send this data, then this button, you would just send the user selected variable. All right, so now let's go into the logic. So there's not really any logic for the text because it's just the answer options. So for checkbox 1, what we are going to do is drag over an if condition. So when you're scrolling through here, we have an if condition right here. You'll be able to drag that over. And here's the way I've set this up. Now normally I would set it up to be equal to, and what I mean by that is, if we were to get rid of this, normally what you would want to do is have page variable or page vars checkbox 1, and then you would do equal equal, and then you would say true. But I wasn't able to get it work with this. If you have to work with this, so if you have any advice or any better options, feel free to drop them in the comment box below. But I had to come up with a bit of a workaround because I wasn't able to get the logic to work with if the variable for checkbox 1 is true or false. Just wasn't working. And sometimes this can be because you're using true false instead of string. And what I mean by that is when you look at the page variables, you have the option for text or a Boolean, which is basically the true false. So in this case, here's what I set up, and you can type this out. So we are using a contains statement instead. So what we have is contains in all caps, an open parenthesis, the text string, open parenthesis, page vars dot checkbox 1, close parentheses, comma, space, string, in parentheses, false, and then the final closing parenthesis. I'll put this in the description for this video, but basically what this is doing is this is saying we need to check if the page variable checkbox 1 has the text false. In this case, we're converting false to string and page variable checkbox 1 to string. So we're saying compare these two text values. And then we're going to click save. Then in the true part of this, we are going to connect set page variable. So what we are going to do is we're going to set page variable over here. You'll choose page variable checkbox 2, and we are going to set it to false. Then checkbox 3 to false and checkbox 4 to false. So basically what this is doing is this is saying, okay, if the page variable contains false, do this. Now, this is going to seem a little bit odd because we're checking here to see if the page variable checkbox 1 contains false. It is a little bit odd because if it does contain false, we're setting the checkboxes to false, but technically you would want this to do this if it's true. So false is not selected, true is selected. So the way this logic is working is it's saying, okay, when this is false, make these false. But for some reason, I think Appgyver may be misinterpreting it, or maybe I'm misinterpreting the logic. But just to show you that this is actually working, we'll refresh the page here. So when I select this one, and then I select this one, you'll see it's working as expected. It's deselecting all. It's not letting me select new options. So basically, we're running this check on component change. And basically it's just saying, okay, the user's made a change, set all of the other checkboxes to false. And then what we're going to do is you can actually drag over and highlight all of these and hit Control-C and go to the next checkbox, and you can actually hit Control-V and paste it in. Now in this case, I'm going to delete these, but I'm just going to show you I have the exact same thing pasted in. But for this one, you need to change checkbox 1 to checkbox 2. Everything else will stay the same. And then for page variables, you're going to change this and make sure that we're setting checkbox 1, 3, 4. So to give you a high-level overview, for your first one, you're going to check for page variable checkbox 1, and you're going to set the page variables for checkbox 2, 3, and 4 to false. For checkbox 2, you're going to check checkbox 2, and you're going to set the page variables checkbox 1, 3, and 4 to false. You're going to copy and paste and do the same thing, and you're going to do a check for, as you guessed, checkbox 3, and then you are going to set the page variables checkbox 2, 1, and 4, or 1, 2, 4. And then lastly, we have contains, and we're going to check checkbox 4. And then we are going to set checkbox 2, 3, and 1, or 1, 2, 3 if you want to keep them in order. Basically what this is doing is we're setting the value to false for everything but the checkbox that we're currently working with. What this ends up doing is exactly what you see here. Every time the component is changed, regardless of which one, it's setting the checkbox. So now we have the checkbox working, but when you click this button, nothing's happening. So this logic may look a little confusing, so we'll go over it together. It's very similar to what we just did. So when you click the button, you can drag it over from over here. We are going to drag over 3 if conditions. So to do that, you just drag over an if condition, and you can actually hit Control-Z, Control-V, and paste it in. And here's the structure, just to show you what it looks like up here. So we're going to build it together, and then I'll just show you the logic. So the false will connect to the next. Basically what this is doing is this is saying if this is true, do whatever happens here. If it's false, go to the next one. And in this case, we will drag over setting the variable. So in this case, we're using page variables. So we'll drop it here. And then you can paste this in 4 times because we have 4 variables to set. And I'll explain why this looks the way that it does and what we're doing here. So if condition 1 is going to check if checkbox 1 is selected. If condition 2 is checking for checkbox 3, or if condition 2 is checking for checkbox 2, if condition 3 is checking for checkbox 3. Now the reason we don't have a 4th one for checkbox 4 is because checkbox 4 is the last one. So if checkbox 3 is selected, it's going to do this. If it's not, 4 is the only other option. So it's going to be this. Now bear in mind that the only thing that this potentially sets users up to do is not answer a question, and it's going to give answer 4. So what I mean by this is, if checkbox 1 is selected, page variable 1 is selected. Same thing here for 2. If 3 is selected, then it's going to select 3. If they don't select 4, then 4 is going to still be selected. So to get around this, if you prefer, we'll walk through how to set this up together. So what we're going to do is we are going to set up if condition, the first one. We'll choose this option here and choose formula, and we're going to paste this in. So I'll have the first one basically just pasted in the description of the video, but we're checking contains checkbox 1 if it contains the text true. This is where it seems to be working as expected in Appgyver. So we're converting true to string, and we're converting checkbox 1 to string, and then we're seeing if checkbox 1 contains true. If it does, we're going to set the page variable user selected. So you can select here, page variable, find user selected, and then you're going to set it to answer 1. And if you remember, that's what we have right here. And then, if this is false, we're going to go to condition 2, which is doing the exact same check, but for checkbox 2. So you'll just change that right there. And then if this is true, we're going to set page variable user selected to answer 2. If this is false, we'll run this third one, which is the same thing but checkbox 3, setting it to true. Now, we'll select or set user selected to answer 3. Now what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to copy this if condition, and we will paste it here, And we're going to improve the logic a little bit together because I don't want it to select right now. As I said before, selecting nothing means answer 4 is selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in one more if condition. And if checkbox 4 is selected, it's going to set user selected to answer 4. But then if nothing is selected, so if this is a failure essentially, what we're going to do is give them a toast message saying select an answer. And we're going to click save. And then the last thing is, again, user answer is going to show up here. So now let's test this out. First thing is we're going to click each of the options and then click options in between just to make sure that the logic is working as expected. And then we're going to choose this one, and you'll see first thing, user answer 3 is selected, user answer 4, 2, and 1. Now in this case, we're going to refresh the page to clear the variables, and then we're going to click this, and you'll see it says select an answer as a toast message. So at this point, everything is working as expected. Now, if you're wanting to do a post or whatever the case is and post via API or send this data off somehow, you can click this option and you've already built this logic. So you've set the page variable. So all you really need to do at this point is post this data. So you would have a post request set up either at the end of each of these or at the end of the last one, whatever option is best for you. But it would be best to set a post. You can basically, if you're interested, find your installed components. And in this case, we would type in HTTP and we can click install. And when we drag this over, you can connect all of these components here to make sure each item is being sent properly. And what you're going to be posting is just the variable user selected. It's only going to post one of these 4 because users can't select all 4 options. So that has really completed this video. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.